I never imagined that at 5 months pregnant, I would be sent to a mental hospital by my own husband. Ethan, the madam has been emotionally unstable lately, always claiming someone is trying to harm her. The assistant reported with head lowered, voice growing softer. Ethan did not even lift his eyelids, then send her for recuperation. I stood at the office door, still holding the chicken soup I had stewed for him. The thermos bucket clanged to the ground, soup splashing onto my newly bought lambskin high heels. I am not ill. I heard my own voice trembling. It is Vivian tampering with my prenatal medicine. I saw her adding white powder to it with my own eyes. Ethan finally looked up at me, his gaze as if observing a mad person. Vivian is an obstetrician. She works overtime every day to prepare your medicine. 3 days later, I was restrained by 4 men in white coats pressing my arms and shoved into a car. Ethan stood on the villa steps tying his tie, morning light gilding him with a golden edge, resembling a merciless statue. As the iron gate of the mental hospital closed behind me, I suddenly recalled the scene of our first meeting. At the university welcome party, he gave a speech as the sponsor's representative, and I, as a student council cadre, handed him the microphone. The moment our fingertips touched, he suddenly grasped my wrist. Why is your hand so cold? Now I know that some people are born with cold blood. Number 0721, time for medication. The nurse pushed the medicine cart to the bedside. I stared at the white pills on her tray, identical to those Vivian added to the prenatal medicine. I am not ill. I shrank back. The nurse showed a pitying expression. Every patient says that. I took advantage of her turning away to press the pill under my tongue, waiting until after rounds to spit it out in the toilet. The person in the mirror had a pale face, dark circles under the eyes, but eyes brightly alarming. I touched my slightly protruding belly and suddenly smiled. Ethan probably forgot that I, Anna, got into law school as a graduate student not by luck. The next day during group activity time, I noticed a patient always drawing design sketches. She was called Clara, sent in by her husband and best friend together because she discovered evidence of them embezzling company funds. Are you drawing architectural blueprints? I leaned over to ask. She warily covered the notebook. Do you understand this? My father is a contractor. I pointed to a mark. The load-bearing wall position here is incorrect. We hid in a surveillance blind spot to exchange information. Her husband was a subcontractor for the Hua Group. I had heard Ethan cursing him on the phone for being insatiably greedy. In the 3rd week, I began taking medicine seriously, swapping the nurse's drugs with vitamin pills. Clara helped me get a backup phone, which I used to film the head nurse accepting bribes from families. Are you going to report it? Clara asked nervously. I shook my head. This is a life-saving talisman. At 7 months pregnant, Ethan finally came to see me. He stood in the visiting room in a crisp suit, as if there for business. I wore a hospital gown, my belly already prominent. Anna, your complexion looks much better. He smiled hypocritically. I pushed the phone over. Vivian came to see me last week. She said once the child is born, she would kill me, so you two could be together legitimately. In the video, Vivian's face was clearly visible. Ethan likes smart women, you idiot. Ethan's face changed abruptly. In front of him, I opened the email draft box, which contained evidence of the mental hospital's dark secrets, set to send automatically next Monday. If I suddenly die, or something happens to the child, I touched my belly and smiled, these will automatically be sent to media emails. He stood up abruptly, the chair scraping harshly on the floor. What do you want? Send me abroad. I said, once the child is born, we go our separate ways. That night, I was transferred to the VIP ward. The nurse brought imported supplements, her attitude respectful as if treating a queen. I leaned against the headboard peeling an orange for Clara. Her husband had come yesterday to sign the reconciliation agreement. Are you really letting that adulterous pair off? She was indignant. I swallowed the sour orange segment. What's the rush? The child hasn't been born yet. Ethan sent 4 bodyguards to protect me, but actually to monitor me. The VIP ward windows were welded with iron bars, and even the toothbrush was replaced with soft rubber. But I was no longer the Anna who only knew how to cry. The nurse came daily to monitor the fetal heart. I noticed she always sneaked glances at her phone. One day while answering a call, I heard her say, "Dr. Vivian, the data has been sent." I pretended to sleep, waiting as she inserted a listening device under my pillow. The next day during rounds, in front of everyone, I suddenly convulsed, rolled my eyes, and fell to the ground. The attending doctor panicked. I clutched his white coat tightly. "Save the child, the medicine from Dr. Vivian." Amid the sharp alarm of the monitor, I glimpsed the nurse's pale face as she deleted phone records. Ethan arrived in half an hour. He was not even wearing his suit jacket. "I ask you, this was the first time in 3 years of marriage I saw him so disheveled. What happened?" He grabbed the doctor's collar and roared. I weakly raised my phone. The screen showed Vivian's message to the nurse, "Find a way to make her miscarry. Ethan promised to marry me. Guess why she is so urgent." I coughed and opened the album. "Because your mother came to me last week, saying as long as I give birth to the Hua family heir, she would give me company shares." In the photo, Madame Margaret held my hand, smiling like a bodhisattva. This was taken 2 months ago, when I had not yet discovered the issue with the prenatal medicine. Ethan's face turned ashen as he went out to make a call. 5 minutes later, Vivian rushed into the ward crying, makeup smeared. "Ethan, let me explain." "Get out." His voice was cold as ice. I watched Vivian being dragged away by bodyguards, her crystal nails scraping harshly on the doorframe. Turning to Ethan, I showed a pale smile. "Can we discuss my conditions now?" He loosened his tie and sat down, suddenly reaching to touch my belly. The child kicked just then, and he retracted his hand as if scalded. "I want the child's birth certificate to have your name." I stared at the ceiling. "But custody goes to me, and you pay alimony monthly." "Impossible." He sneered, "A Hua family child." "Then wait for the top trending search, Hua group heir murders pregnant wife." I interrupted him. "By the way, Clara's husband's ledger is in my hands. Guess how many kickbacks to you are in it?" He suddenly pinched my chin. I smelled the faint cigar scent on his hand. 3 years ago on vacation in the Maldives, he had pinched my chin like this to feed me cherries, saying my wife is so cute. The bodyguard suddenly knocked. "Ethan, the old madam is here." Madame Margaret entered in 10-centimeter heels, her Chanel suit impeccable. She glanced at the monitor and directly slapped Ethan. "You bastard." Turning to me with a kind smile, "Anna, tomorrow transfer to Harmony Home, Grandma will personally take care of you." I nodded obediently, pinching my thigh under the blanket. The play was not over yet. That night, Ethan was called back to the old residence. Clara slipped into my ward, handing me a pack of spicy strips. "Surveillance handled, 10 minutes." I quickly unpacked the spicy strips, retrieving the USB drive hidden inside. Her husband's falsified account showed Ethan had evaded at least 200 million in taxes over 3 years. Enough for 10 years in prison. Clara licked the spicy oil from her fingers. "Are you really sending him in?" I touched my belly without speaking. Outside the window, lightning flashed suddenly, thunderstorm pounding the glass like countless nails scratching. The next day during transfer, I suddenly had massive bleeding in the ambulance. In a daze, I heard the doctor shout placental abruption. Ethan held my hand shaking. "Anna, you are not allowed to die." How ridiculous, now he knows fear. As I was pushed into the operating room, I heard Ethan calling to summon the city's best obstetric experts. The moment the shadowless lamp lit up, I suddenly recalled the day we got our marriage certificate. He cornered me in the Civil Affairs Bureau corridor, kissing me breathless, saying, "This lifetime, I'm doomed by you." As anesthesia was injected into my veins, I desperately pinched my thigh. "Cannot faint now." Waking up, everything was white. Ethan lay asleep by the bed, chin sprouting blue stubble. I subconsciously touched my belly. The flat sensation made my heart skip a beat. "Where is the child?" My voice was hoarse like sandpaper. Ethan woke abruptly, eyes full of red veins. "In the incubator, premature but healthy." He reached to touch my hair, but I turned my head to dodge. When the nurse brought the child for feeding, I stared at the wrinkled little face in a daze. She suddenly grabbed my finger with surprising strength. Like you. Ethan said from the bedside, especially when being ruthless. I lowered my head to kiss my daughter's forehead, tasting salty tears. Madame Margaret entered with the nanny, immediately shooing Ethan out upon seeing. Phone. I reached toward the old lady, otherwise, I'll jump now. She sighed and pulled my old phone from her Hermes bag. Upon powering on, dozens of unread messages flooded in, the top one from Clara: Vivian was arrested, self-harming in the mental hospital. I opened the video, Vivian in a straitjacket banging against the wall, hair matted over her face. Off camera, someone asked, why drug the pregnant woman? She laughed hysterically. Ethan said once the child is born, we can't shake off that bitch. Madame Margaret suddenly snatched the phone, don't look at this filth. She handed me a document, at the child's 100-day banquet, Grandma will give you a gift. I flipped it open to see equity transfer agreement and suddenly laughed. Should have thought of it earlier. Compared to a son in prison, the old lady naturally chooses the granddaughter with closer blood ties. When Ethan entered again, I was feeding the child. He stared at the scar faintly visible at my pajama neckline, the one from the cesarean. Vivian has gone mad. He said hoarsely. I heavily placed the bottle on the nightstand, next is you. He suddenly knelt on one knee by the bed, a pose from 3 years ago when proposing. Anna, let's start over. Fine. I interrupted him. First, throw away the cufflinks Vivian gave you. Those sapphire cufflinks, I saw Vivian give them to him last Valentine's Day. Ethan unhesitatingly removed them and threw them out the window. 17th floor, below was the hospital's artificial lake. I lowered my head to tease my daughter. Baby, look, Daddy is performing a desperate act. On discharge day, Ethan insisted on holding the child himself. His arms were stiff like holding a bomb. I recorded from the side, for evidence, in case you deny later. Boarding the car, I found a stranger in the driver's seat. Ethan explained the original bodyguards were dismissed, including the one who passed messages to Vivian. Guess why they suddenly became loyal? I fastened my seatbelt, because I transferred $500,000 to each. In the rearview mirror, Ethan's face was ugly as if he swallowed a fly. Back at the villa, I found all my things moved back to the master bedroom. On the dressing table was a new phone, album containing videos of Vivian in the mental hospital, sender Clara's husband. Ethan hugged me from behind, breath on my ear. Satisfied? I turned and handed him the daughter. Change the diaper. After he fumbled through it, I leaned at the nursery door. Tomorrow I want to see a lawyer. His hand still dusted with talcum powder. What now? Make a will. I smiled at the daughter in the cradle. If I die, all assets to the child, guardian. Deliberately drawing out, guess, your mom or my dad? Ethan crumpled the diaper, crackling. Outside the window, rain started again, drops hitting the glass like someone gently knocking. On the daughter's 1-month birthday, the Hua family held a city-shaking banquet. I wore haute couture, holding the child beside Ethan, smiling like a standard wealthy wife. Below, flashes dazzled, a reporter asked loudly, Mrs. Anna, heard you were hospitalized for postpartum depression? Ethan was about to speak. I grabbed the mic first. Yes, luckily my husband noticed in time and sent me to the best hospital. I turned affectionately to him. Now he even changes company meetings to video to accompany me and the baby more. Ethan's mouth twitched, hand on my waist tightening slightly. Midway through the banquet, Madame Margaret suddenly took the stage. Wearing reading glasses, she read a statement announcing transfer of 15% of her Hua shares to her granddaughter. Below erupted, this proportion was 5% more than Ethan's holdings. Mom. Ethan stood abruptly. The old lady patted his shoulder, voice through the mic spreading, you're a father now, be steady. I lowered to kiss my daughter's little face. Today she wore the Hua family heirloom gold lock, heavy on her red silk bib. Ethan gripped my hand under the table, painfully tight. After dispersal, we bumped into Clara in the lounge. She was now designer for Hua's new project, chatting happily with Madame Margaret. Thanks to Ethan's care. She raised a glass to Ethan, that embezzlement case, thanks to you for withdrawing the lawsuit. Ethan's face ashen, he knew nothing of this. I pretended to adjust daughter's skirt, avoiding his gaze. On the way home, he finally exploded. When did you hook up with my mom? When you accompanied Vivian on night shift the third time. I shook daughter's little hand. Grandma likes her granddaughter more than you imagine. Car entered villa garage. He suddenly locked the doors. Anna, what do you really want? Moonlight seeped through the window, illuminating his tense profile. I suddenly recalled university when he climbed the wall to bring me midnight snack, frowning similarly. Anna, what flavor do you like? I want that Riverside apartment under your name. I said calmly, transfer tomorrow. That house faces Vivian's hospital. Next noon, when the real estate agent brought documents, Ethan was burping the daughter. He signed and threw the pen. Satisfied now? I checked the terms. Okay, next week I'll take the child to my parents for a few days. No. He stood abruptly, startling the daughter. I pulled a USB from my bag and threw it on the coffee table. Found while sorting old things last night. Guess what's inside? Ethan stared at the silver USB like a time bomb. It was bought on our honeymoon, containing video of him singing to me on the yacht. You altered the content. His voice tightened. Yes, added some stuff. I casually teased the daughter, like last March, surveillance of you booking a room at Four Seasons. His face paled instantly. That day he said business in Shanghai, actually taking Vivian for birthday. Relax, now you're the child's father. I retrieved the USB, as long as you behave. Afternoon, Madame Margaret visited suddenly, bringing a full set of jade jewelry as granddaughter's dowry. While Ethan made tea, she slipped me a check, $5 million, leave my son. I smiled and pushed it back. Mom, now he can't leave me. The old lady narrowed her eyes. Girl, know when to stop. I placed the sleeping daughter in the cradle, turned to open the safe. Inside neatly stacked were equity documents, will copies, and that USB. You say, if these appear at the board meeting tomorrow. Madame Margaret suddenly laughed. No wonder my son fell to you. She read on silk gloves. Next week board re-election. I want you to support Edward's return. Edward, her husband, Ethan's father, retired 5 years ago due to stroke. Deal. I lifted the teacup, but I want to enter the supervisory board. Ethan stood at the door with tea tray, cups clinking crisply against it. Sunlight through the floor-to-ceiling window. We three smiled with ulterior motives, like a family. The daughter suddenly cried in the cradle, voice loud as protest. On board re-election day, I held the daughter in the last row. Ethan on stage gave annual report, eyes glancing my way occasionally. When Edward was wheeled on stage, the room erupted. Post-stroke, his left face stiff, speech slurred, but spirited. My son, too young, needs tempering. Ethan stood aside, fingers deforming the speech draft. I lowered to wipe daughter's drool, pretending not to see his pleading gaze. Voting result unsurprising, Edward regained power with 78% support. After adjournment, Ethan cornered me in the restroom corridor. You knew early? Guessed. I adjusted daughter's little bow. Your dad could get out of bed last month, your mom wouldn't let say. He punched the wall by my ear. Daughter cried scared. I patted her back cooing, baby don't cry, daddy performing impotent rage. Madame Margaret emerged from the corner, holding a file box. Ethan, your office is cleared. She handed me an access card, supervisory board vice chair pass. Ethan stared at the silver card, suddenly smiled. Anna, you won. Not yet. I leaned to his ear. Vivian discharged tomorrow, not going to see? His pupils contracted sharply. Even I didn't know, Clara just messaged me. On the way home, Ethan drove unusually silent. At red light, he suddenly asked, if I hadn't sent you to the mental hospital. We'd divorce sooner or later. I watched passing scenery. You can't change cheating habit, I can't tolerate betrayal. Daughter in rear safety seat babbled, little hand grabbing hanging toy. It was a crystal house with floating snowflakes, Ethan bought last week, saying daughter likes shiny things. That night, group official Weibo announced Ethan's transfer to overseas division. I scrolled comments with guesses, received Clara's call, Vivian just withdrew lawsuit at police. She says the drugging was hallucination. I walked to the crib, gently touching daughter's cheek. Ethan pushed door in, holding fairy tale book. I'll read her bedtime story. What time flight tomorrow? I asked. 10. He squatted by crib, voice suddenly choked. Let me hold her more. I watched this once arrogant man, now like a child pressing face to daughter's little blanket. Moonlight through gauze curtain, casting mottled shadows on floor. Next day airport, Ethan dragged suitcase, lingering at security. He finally kissed daughter, stuffed bank card in my hand, password your birthday. In front of him, I checked balance, 20 million. Not enough. I returned card, I want that island you bought in Maldives. That island he once said to take Vivian for honeymoon. Ethan bitter smiled, pulled phone to transfer. When electronic contract emailed, broadcast urged boarding. Anna. He suddenly grabbed my wrist, wait for my return. We'll see. I turned holding daughter, remember weekly video to see child. Exiting airport, daughter suddenly struggled in arms to look back. Following her gaze, Ethan still stood, figure shrinking before landing window. Phone vibrated, Clara messaged, Edward just signed file, kicked Vivian's dad from supplier list. I looked up at sky, sunlight stinging eyes. Daughter babbled grabbing my hair, I kissed her little hand, let's go, mommy takes you to amusement park. 3 months after Ethan left, daughter could call mommy. I sat in supervisory board meeting, phone suddenly vibrated. In video call, Ethan in tropical shirt on beach, blue sea background. Daughter excitedly patted screen, Dad. Dad. Meeting room instantly quiet, all directors turned to me. I calmly muted, continue report, last quarter financial data has issues. After meeting, Edward called me, Ethan doing well in Philippines. Heard he secured rubber plantation project last week. I sorted files, but quote 15% above market, does board know? The old man's wheelchair stopped suddenly, you sent someone to track him? No need for that trouble. I smiled opening email, his new secretary sends me weekly work reports. That girl is Clara's cousin, I personally greeted at interview. On way home, I detoured to Riverside apartment. Renovation team smashing walls, foreman said, as per your request, master bedroom changed to children's playroom. This house facing Vivian's office now hung full of daughter's photos. Standing at floor window, with binoculars I could see hospital corridor, Vivian being pointed and scolded by patient. Phone rang again, this time Madam Margaret, tomorrow family banquet, remember bring child. Mom, tomorrow I fly Singapore. I touched daughter's curls, take baby for 1-year checkup. Phone silent seconds, on purpose? Tomorrow Ethan's birthday. So? I chuckled, need me to burn incense? That night received international package, open to Crystal Castle. Card, to my 2 most loved girls. Handwriting scrawled as if trembling. I placed Castle in daughter's toy pile, snapped photo posted to Moments, thanks child's dad. Location Singapore Marina Bay Sands. Actually we in airport nearby budget hotel, Clara came with rubber plantation true quote sheet. Ethan taking kickbacks. She pointed data table, per ton overreported $30, total at least 2 million. While coaxing daughter to sleep, I asked, evidence chain complete? She handed USB, his new secretary secretly photographed contract copy. Next day, daughter cried heartbreakingly at checkup center. Holding her humming softly, suddenly heard, Miss Anna? Vivian stood at corridor corner, white coat revealing hospital pants. She was emaciated, wrists bruised. My license revoked. Her voice hoarse like sandpaper, Ethan's doing. I covered daughter's ears, so? His study safe third layer, she suddenly leaned close, has your premarital agreement. Daughter suddenly grabbed her hair, Vivian screamed retreating. When nurse arrived, I had pushed stroller away, palms full of cold sweat. Ethan did make me sign premarital agreement, but said tore it long ago. Evening video, his background changed to office, baby's checkup today how? Pretty good. I turned lens to sleeping daughter, just met Vivian. His pen snapped. What did she say to you? Nothing. I smiled, shifting topic. Rubber plantation project smooth? He, visibly relieved, started talking work endlessly. I stared at his bookshelf behind, third row left, seventh book, Little Prince hardcover. Our first date, he gave me this version. Hung up, I dialed her residence butler. William, tomorrow can help open Ethan's study? Baby wants to see her dad's photos. Next day, downpour. I held daughter in her family study, rain beating century-old stained glass. Safe password opened on third try, daughter's birthday. Third layer had yellowed premarital agreement, and black notebook. Opening first page, my blood froze. March 15, 2020, Anna's hand too cold, suspect insufficient heart blood supply, arrange full body check. June 22, 2021, Anna's stomachache midnight, tomorrow have secretary find TCM doctor. September 18, 2022, Vivian's prenatal formula, needs supervise Anna take on time. Last clipped note, written before Ethan flew Philippines. If return find you touched this book, I'll tie you to private island lock for life. Trembling, I hugged daughter. She curiously grabbed the paper, milky voice, Dad. Dad. Outside lightning split, illuminating notebook flyleaf, Anna related matters record, confidentiality level, highest. I photographed notebook and premarital agreement all for backup, originals untouched back in safe. Exiting her residence, downpour stopped, butler William umbrellaed us to car. Madam, he suddenly lowered voice, young master's study has camera. My step paused, when installed. Day before yesterday. He handed note, this monitoring back-end password. I stared at the numbers, our wedding anniversary. On way home, daughter slept sweetly in back. I dialed Clara, help check if Ethan recently contacted private investigators. Checked long ago. Her keyboard clattered, he hired 3 to rotate watching you, daily report itinerary. I scoffed, send their contacts. That night, I met 3 detectives at cafe. They sat facing me, glancing at each other like awaiting judgment prisoners. Ethan's price, I double. I pushed 3 checks. From today, your report's first to me for review. Youngest detective couldn't help. Aren't you afraid we tell Ethan? I stirred coffee. Guess why he suddenly transferred to Philippines? 3 faces changed simultaneously. Next day, I flew to Haishar with daughter. On plane, flight attendant specially brought baby meal, said arranged by first-class gentleman. Following her point, back row man in cap quickly raised newspaper to cover face, youngest of 3 detectives. Hotel check-in, front desk handed package. Open to diving gear set, card, remember you said want learn diving. Handwriting same as last Crystal Castle card. I photographed sent to Ethan, you sent someone track me? He instant replied, afraid you take baby play water unsafe. Attached pic me holding daughter at airport half hour ago. I countered with video of daughter playing sand, location Sanya Yalong Bay. Actually in Haikou, Clara waited in hotel conference room, table spread with complete rubber plantation evidence chain. Enough to file case. She bit straw, really sending him in? I looked down at daughter, trying to stuff foot and mouth. Wait more. I said. Ethan's video call late night. Background noisy site, hard hat crooked, face mud spotted. Project completed early. His voice hoarse, I return next week. Daughter asleep, I aimed phone at her little face, agreed half year. Can't wait. He turned lens suddenly, showing starry sky, see that brightest? Filipinos call it homecoming star. University camping night, he pointed same star, if I anger you later, look at it, I'll surely be rushing back to apologize. I hung up directly. Next day, detective messaged, Ethan morning flight, expected 3 p.m. Shanghai transit. I immediately changed tickets, returned early with daughter. Home, found bouquet of delphiniums at door, my favorite flower. Hidden in flowers a room card, Pudong Ritz-Carlton Presidential Suite. Childish. I threw card in drawer, turned to coax fussy daughter. Teething these days, especially irritable. Late night, daughter finally asleep. Impulsively I took room card, taxied to hotel. Pushing door, Ethan facing laptop in meeting. Seeing me, directly closed screen, you came. Room piled with baby supplies, table new drafted agreement. Title joint custody confirmation, all terms favorable to me. Premarital agreement I burned. His throat very hoarse, this time you decide. I flipped last page, found he signed. Date today, our daughter's first birthday. Outside window, homecoming star brightly glaring. Daughter's second birthday banquet, Ethan suddenly knelt one knee pulling ring. Guests hooted screamed, baby in arms excitedly patted cake tray. Anna. His hand holding diamond ring shook, let's remarry. I dug cream smeared on his nose tip, reason? First, child needs complete family. He pulled phone played video, daughter in kindergarten saying my dad always sneaks kisses on mom surveillance. Second? He suddenly pulled me into arms, cream rubbing my face, damn it, I can't forget you. Amid hall laughter, I noticed Madame Margaret holding Clara's hand talking, Edward in corner on call, caller ID Philippines rubber plantation number. Ring I accepted. I wore diamond ring publicly, remarriage, depends on your performance. Ethan's eyes brightly alarming, picked up daughter tossed in air, baby. Mom agreed. That night he lingered in my bedroom, insisted tell daughter bedtime story. Ended up asleep first, suit pants stained cake cream. I gently pulled phone from his pocket, unlocked with his fingerprint. Inbox had unread message, Ethan, Vivian's father arrested for corruption, evidence transferred to police as per your request. Send today 3 p.m., exactly his kneeling proposal moment. I put down phone, found daughter awake sometime, drooling on Ethan's chest. He groggily patted daughter's back, mumbling, Anna don't fuss. Outside window rain started again, drops knocking 3 years ago he personally installed bulletproof glass. Nightstand, 2 wedding rings glimmered under lamp. I gently lay beside this father-daughter pair, daughter immediately rolled into my arms. Ethan half asleep reached around us, warm palm on my postpartum scar. Under pillow pressed that signed custody agreement, and my drafted WHA group equity allocation plan, when daughter 18, she will own 34% of WHA shares. Enough to counterbalance anyone.